All right. Real money coach. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, we are doing it. We are here. Listen, we got Emmerich Peace in the house again. You know, this is so much fun because when you are walking with purpose, what happens is everyone just really resonates with you. And last week, Emmerich A. Peace. That's right. I call him Emmerich A. We're going to find out what the A stands for tonight. But what I want you to understand is this. He dropped so much knowledge that it just felt so good. We were like, yo, we got to continue this conversation because real estate, ladies and gentlemen, is a way for creating true wealth. You know, one of the things I want to encourage everyone to do over this past weekend, I was just on a mission to learn and grow. And there is a phenomenal documentary, documentary produced by PBS Frontline. It's called The Retirement Gamble. And we will post in the chat box, you know, where you can go ahead and access it. Because I'm telling you, this video documentary was amazing. And I had the opportunity to watch it. And, you know, Frontline, PBS, and it's 53 minutes. And a guy by the name of Martin Smith, okay, no relationship to me, but, you know, he basically really talks about how vulnerable we are as a nation when we talk about the retirement gamble, okay? And that's why, again, tonight's show is so important because it's all about each one of us understanding we got to take charge, right? I mean, I'm a man of faith, right? So God is my source. That's my foundation. And so I believe I'm co-creating with God. Pray as though it all depends on God. Act as though it all depends on me. So one of the things about this retirement gamble documentary, you're going to see how, man, I mean, there's just a lot of deception going on. And, you know, you can watch it. My eyes were open. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. But I'd like for you right now, go ahead and type where you're watching from. Okay, we got, shucky now. Look who's here. All right, Dr. Bonita Harris is here. Okay, Alice Martin is here, right? Evelyn is here. Great to have you. Ruth is here, right? And so, and Pam Mullen is here with Evelyn. Man, so excited. The ladies are in the house. Where are the men? That's all I want to know. Where are the brothers? Brothers, come on now, come on. All right. Oh, LD Sweat McKinney is always on time, right? Tracy is here. Tracy. All right. You know, we had that little, talk. Is it Delaware? Is it Philly? Hey, Philadelphia Eagles, Tracy. I'm with you on that. But here's what I want you to understand. Get ready. Get your notepad. I got my notepad ready. You want to have your notepad, your pen, because tonight is phase 2. And I want you to understand it's so important for each and every one of us to go ahead and, interact with Emmerich, post your questions. Okay. My brother, Lance Smith from Silver Spring, Maryland in the house. So it's really wonderful. All right. And so glad you're here, Lance. You're representing the men. I mean, right now it's all women and Lance. All right. And so here's the thing. What this is about is you learning, because again, put that up. I just want you to see Frontline PBS. It's called The Retirement Gamble. All right. And you definitely want to watch that. 53 minutes. It's going to open your mind. I watched it over the weekend. And again, the Real Money Coach, we're all about sharing information, right? We're all about that. And so another video documentary, and some of you are like, Marlon, I mean, man, do you ever sleep? Right. But here's the thing, man. Information is not power. Information is potential power. It becomes power when you take action. So another documentary that really opened me up, right, is called 13th. It's on Netflix, right? And again, we'll post the YouTube, video. You can, if you don't have Netflix, you can still watch it online via YouTube. But it's called 13th. It's based on the 13th Amendment, and it is amazing. You want to definitely watch this. Please give yourself this gift. My eyes were so open to the fact that, wow, I mean, it's been systemic. And Adele is here. Hey, Adele from Greenville, South Carolina. Adele is so phenomenal. She is just really a mover and shaker. I just enjoy her so much. And so the 13th Amendment is really talking about no slavery, so on and so forth. But there's a little clause in there talking about imprison, right? And how you lose your liberties. And man, when you watch the 13th documentary, it talks about how politics, how entertainment, how the media, it's all been a system, right? Mass incarceration. And so my question to you, you saw it in the email blast that my colleague Tony sent out, is there still racism as far as, redlining, as far as the housing market? Do you feel there's still racism? So you can point yes or no. Do you feel like there's still a system, that, it's not, just your green dollar, what you can afford, your credit, but are there other factors, right? As far as, that it's not level. I love to hear from you. You can say yes or no, but let's bring Tony up so we can continue this conversation. But please watch those two documentaries, right? Frontline PBS. It's entitled The Retirement Gamble. And the second one is 13th. It's on Netflix, also on YouTube, 13th, okay, based on the 13th Amendment. But let's bring Tony up so we can talk about, this whole topic, brother. And how you doing, Tony?
Hey, Marlon, I'm doing well. I'm doing well, man. It's been an awesome day. It's been an awesome week. I can't believe, man, it's been a week already since we were right here at the same spot, same channel, and really talking about some things. I learned so much last week about real estate and not just on the surface, but what is real estate? What is it doing to us politically and all those types of things. So it was pretty awesome, man. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm glad that Emmett's back. And, as we were preparing, I just, and I read about that and where, the Fair Housing Act and all that. That supposedly did away with discrimination.
Okay.
In terms of with gender, right? Race, those type of things. And I think even today we would even say, even alternative lifestyles and all those types of things. And I just wonder, is it still present? Are people still being discriminated against because of their color of their skin, their sexual orientation, and all those types of things? And most people are saying absolutely yes. And now I have to mention this, man, because we got MC, that's LD Sweet McKinney, right? But I'll tell you something, man. I know that the brother is right there with us, right? JR is right there with his wife Lisa. So that's one male that we can count. You just don't realize that he's there, but he's there live in color. So
that's great.
And so now, because one of the things about racism is just because the law says you can move there doesn't mean that you're welcome.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that there aren't other things that they're doing to keep us out. Now, it's interesting, Marlon, this is so interesting to me that you mentioned the 13th Amendment, right? And with the prison, how you lose a lot of your rights, right? So if you have a felony, that means that you can't vote, right? And then, what does it do to your housing? So if you're being screened for housing, can that have an impact? I think it does.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of things. That's a real deep documentary. So.
Yeah. And listen, Tony, I appreciate you sharing that, man, because the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that, quote, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So what we're saying is neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. That, man, I'm telling you, man, that is deep. What
you just said eliminates all the rights. Man, that's just wild to me.
Isn't that wild?
Really wild. And it's just, and it's those types of things that's right under our nose,
right?
That we don't know about, know. And so, wow. So I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it is important. It is important as we continue to bring, very real topics, right?
Yeah.
And so last week was awesome. And I'm thinking that tonight, man, it's even going to be more so. Because when I think about last week, we're really talking about home ownership in terms mostly of your personal residence, right?
Sure.
So, and he talked about how you can pay your home off early. And then we got into a little bit of how you can get into some more rental income and that type of thing. But we know that there's some potential risk and rewards when it comes to real estate as an investment. And so just being prepared for that, understanding the risk, understanding the rewards. And so that's the same whether we're talking about investing in the stock market or investing in real estate. That's the same regardless of how we're investing, is just to have a correct assessment of the risk and rewards. Affordability, leverage, acquisition costs, liquidity. Those are all very important things when we start talking about investing in real estate. And then, of course, the rewards is, again, leverage is a great reward. Equity, growth in equity, income, tax benefits, all those things are very important for as we are assessing risk versus reward in real estate.
And Tony, I mean, the statistic is this: about 90%, 9 out of 10 of the world's millionaires have created their wealth by investing in real estate. I mean, that's huge. Wow. 90%, right? As it says, for the average investor, real estate offers the best way to develop significant wealth. And so that's why, again, having Emerick on again is so important. And I want to really encourage our viewers, if you have any questions, type it in the chat box. This is your time. It's a virtual town hall meeting because we wanted to, again, our mission, the Real Money Coach, is to bring great minds, leaders, thought leaders, right? Innovative thinkers to this platform so you have access to them. And so, again, this is really great, Tony.
Yeah. So I love that, Marlon. And I think we bought the best of the best. I mean, and that's what we want. We want the best of the best here to share with us. And we're confident in that, right? Because I know some people's like, but we're bringing people that are smarter than us in areas because, we admittedly, we don't know it all, right? We know what we know, and we know what we know very well. But we love bringing in these experts that can share their expertise. I learn, hopefully our audience learns, and hopefully, even the people who are coming and sharing with us are blessed as well.
Yeah,
so, absolutely. So what do you think, man? You think it's probably about time that we bring Emerick on and let him start talking to us, let us teach us tonight?
I think so.
And again, I just want to just tell you a little bit about him. Man, he introduced himself so well last week. So Emerick is with Keller Williams. He's has one of the largest real estate brokerages in the country. And it's interesting. He's with Keller Williams, and I actually know a Keller Williams agent. I know a couple of them here in town. And I said, Emerick's going to be on tonight. He said, he is, man, he's a big figure. He's a big figure too. So his reputation is all over the country, man. When you mention his name, people know who you're talking about. And so that's why we love that he would take the time out. Yeah. And the other thing, I want to mention this, that the guests that come on our show, we don't pay them. They just volunteer their time. Well, shoot, we don't get paid either. They just volunteer their time to come and share. And so that shows you where their heart is. So, and then you think about Emerick, he's all the way over in Maryland. There's a lot of people on this broadcast that probably won't ever use his actual services. Maybe there are some. And we hope so. We hope that there is a blessing for him in this, but they just volunteer their time to come and share with us. And so, as Tracy mentioned there, drum roll, please, and let's bring on the man.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And, I think one of the things as he's coming on, I want to say thank you, Emerick, because last week he shared his email address and, his social media. And so, I want to say thank you, Emerick, because that said a lot about who you are, for you to make yourself available, to, viewers all over the nation, all over the world. And because that just showed that, man, you're about making a positive difference. So I want to say thank you on behalf of the Real Money Coach.
No problem. No problem.
Hey, Marlon, I've been after this brother for years, man. Every time I see him at PNC, I'd be, hey, man.
Don't do that.
Mortgage protection. He said, right. I'm giving him flyers. I'm giving him books. Hey, man, go back to your office and look at this mortgage protection stuff. And
right.
So, and I'm so glad that we're working with him.
Yes.
And so just really, really awesome. Emmerich, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Man, we just enjoyed you last week. Of course, I've spoken with George Frazier. He speaks very highly of you. And so, man, we're just happy to have you with us tonight and to share some more nuggets of wisdom as it comes to real estate. It's titled Get Real About Real Estate, Part 2.
Well, we've had this conversation. I just had a slight foul move for me, and I apologize. There we go.
All right.
I was in this session today, last night, and I was thinking about all that we can put together, and just to make sure people have a great time and get some knowledge. That's what this is really about. And for me, it's pouring into folks, and it's primarily pouring into folks that look like me. I'll pour into other folks too, but my main responsibility is to make sure that people look like me get all they deserve and some more. And I'm here. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. And today we talked last week, and we talked about just general real estate. But this conversation here is more about investment. And so many people want to get into investment, but the truth is they just don't know how, or they're concerned about it. We had heard the conversation earlier about the stock market, and real estate is just one of those things. It's always safe. I look at it as always being safe. I know we had a challenge in 2007, 8, 9. At the end of the day, even that came back. So I want to talk about investments, and we're going to talk about investments in different ways. And so this is a dialogue, right? And when we talk about being investments, there's a couple different ways where we can talk about investing in real estate. And I want people to be clear this, because when you talk about investing in real estate, there's like 5 different ways that you can become a landlord. And it's ideal for people who have do-it-yourself skills, renovation skills. They have the patience to manage tenants. But what it takes to get started, substantial capital sometimes is needed up front, and then maintenance costs and to cover vacant months. So I want to break this down a little differently, right? Becoming a landlord in that space, I want everybody to understand, if you don't have the patience to manage tenants, get property management. Get a property management. Property management charges anywhere from 8 to 10%. What that does is that takes the headache of you calling the tenants calling you, maintenance issues. It takes all of that off of your plate. Yes, it eats into your profit. However, it gives you peace of mind, because when you're a landlord and you're dealing with residential properties, the thing is sometimes people don't pay their rent, and if they don't pay their rent, that forces you to have to go downtown and file for eviction or file for a writ of possession. If you don't have the stomach for that kind of activity, get a property manager. And so I'm just going to be frank with you. Even as a real estate professional, I have a property manager on one of my properties, because I already know the type of tenant that I'm dealing with. I don't want to deal with that type of tenant. So I'd rather pay somebody 8%. In my case, I'm paying 8%. I'd rather pay someone 8% so I don't have to have the headache. And so being a landlord, you just got to have the stomach. As far as substantial capital needed and upfront maintenance costs and to cover vacancy, one of the things when you're a landlord, you have to make sure that your property is cash flowing enough so that you can start a separate account for maintenance and vacancies. What I typically suggest that you have at least 3 months in reserve for vacancy. And depending on the size of the property, on average, you have about $2,500 in reserve for maintenance. So, hypothetically speaking, if you had $1,000 rental property, you want $3,000 in reserve uh, for vacancy, and then you want another $2,500 for maintenance. So, at all times, you should always have at least $4,500 in reserve to maintain that property. And it depends on your risk assessment. If your 3 months is exhausted, do you have the resource for 5 or 6 months? So sometimes you might want 5 or 6 months in reserve. It just depends on the property. It depends on the location. It depends on your appetite for risk, and it all depends on your liquidity personally. Because if that money's not there, it's going to absolutely have to come from you personally. And the same thing for maintenance costs. But however, if you have 3 months reserved for vacancy from a mortgage perspective, because it's a mortgage for you, it's a rent for the tenant, and then at least $2,500 in reserve for maintenance. The second is real estate investment groups. It's ideal for people who want to own rental real estate without the hassles of running it. What it takes to get started: capital, cushion, and access to financing. And really, in that real estate investment groups, it's where you get a group of people together and you invest as a group. So here's the key to that. You have to know who your investment partners are. I'm a firm believer in knowing who your investment partners are. If you don't know who your investment partners are, you have to absolutely have a document that manages the relationship. And what I mean when I say that is that there has to be some financial and some legal instrument to make it clear to the members of the group what are the boundaries. These are the boundaries. These are the things you can't do. This is what you're investing in. And just understanding that this legal document is binding and it will govern all activities with this real estate, with this investment group. Can't be friends. You can be friends, but you can't be friendly. Can't just let people out of the group to let people out of the group, because again, all investments are tied to the group activities and the legal instrument. The legal instrument will govern that relationship. It is not a friendly document. It is a business document. I cannot stress that enough. It is not a friendly document. It is a business document. And so in that space, sometimes you hear people say, we don't mix friendships and business. You can mix friendships and business as long as you have a legal instrument to govern the relationship and all parties understand. The third one, a third way to invest in real estate is flipping, house flipping, aka also known as real estate trading. Ideal for people with significant experience in real estate valuation and marketing and renovation expertise. What it takes to get started: capital and the ability to do or oversee repairs as needed. Now, flipping is a great way to get into real estate. Flipping is a beautiful way to get into real estate if you are a person who wants transient capital. And what I mean when I say transient capital, I mean that when you purchase a property, your intended purpose for this property is to buy the property, repair it, make it habitable, put it in a position where it will draw the maximum amount of money on the market, and then be willing to sell it. The key to flipping is that you cannot be emotionally attached to the outcome. Always remember, this is a business deal. It is a business deal. It's a business deal. It's a business deal. The biggest thing that with flippers and where they run into the most difficulty is flippers begin to take the properties personally. But I like this. I like that. I want this. I want that. And that's not what it's about. This is a business transaction. So it's not so much about what you like. It's about what makes sense to the person that's going to be buying that piece of real estate. That's the conversation. And then the other part is, does it fit into the budget? House flipping is budget intensive, because every dollar that you waste, which that means it's profit that you don't receive, and it affects your ROI, it affects your return on investment. And if you're using OPM, other people's money, the people who are in this deal with you, they're watching the profitability too. So you got to be really careful that you don't take flipping personal, it's really about the potential buyer, what's in their best interest and what's going to net you the most money coming into a flipping environment. As far as the capital involved for flipping, it depends on your experience. Typically with flipping, it takes about 20% to do a deal. You have to have 20% of your own capital into the deal. And the reason being is because, again, this is business. You cannot be emotionally attached to the outcomes. Sometimes you're going to win some and sometimes you're going to lose some. And whoever that investor is, their conversation for you is, if this deal goes south and this deal is not going to make money, the truth for them is, do you have skin in the game? If you don't have any skin in the game, you're more apt to walk away from the deal. And so they typically require some capital, 20%. Typically, sometimes when you're more experienced investor, you can get 10%. If the investment to ratio is low enough, like you had a 35% if I take that back, if you had a 60% LTV, which means that there's only a 60% exposure for the investor, they may be willing to do 100%. But at the end of the day, it really comes back to after repair value. If the after repair value is in one place and the capital outlay is 40 to 45%, 45% less than that, then you might can get a zero deal. That's not that often though, because again, whoever's providing you the capital, they still really want to see some skin in the game, because the last thing they want to do is get that property back. The fourth way to invest in real estate is through a real estate investment trust, which is a REIT. It's investors who want investors who want portfolio exposure to real estate without the traditional real estate transaction. What it take to get started? Investment capital. So in a REIT, like a lot of people don't understand it, and REITs are really, really big. And in order to start a REIT, it's really a controlled environment. It's a SEC regulated investment, but it also securities exchange regulated investment. So the thing with a REIT, like when you have a retirement plan, if you have a retirement plan, a lot of retirement plans are incorporated into REITs, because what happens is in that REIT in that portfolio of money, it may have 3 or 4 retirement plans. They may have $500, $600, $700 million. And what they do is they invest in cash flow investments. And we're going to talk more about REITs in a second. They invest in cash flow real estate deals. Sometimes you can invest in trust. You can invest in funds that specifically look to put your money in a REIT. And typically REITs have a really, really strong return, better than market returns. And again, that's with large pools of money. With that being said, we're going to talk about something, and we're going to talk about REITs a little more in depth, because that was a conversation that we had yesterday about REITs. And when we had this conversation about REITs yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, I wanted to break it down, because it's a way of investing your money into a pool that's it's extremely safe. It's very calculated in the risk department. So with the REIT, the Real Estate Investment Trust, it's companies that own and finance income producing real estate across a range of property sectors. These real estate companies have to meet a number of requirements to qualify as REITs. Also, REITs trade on major stock exchanges, and they offer a number of benefits to investors. And so in that space, when you're talking about that, there's an opportunity for you to invest in REITs because they are a traded commodity. Any questions with that? Anything, anybody? Let's look in the chat, see if we got anything with the chat. Nothing in the chat right now. Were you about to say something? You look like you're leaning forward.
Hey, I want to just a couple things, man. I know you went through a couple things, and I wanted to go back and just kind of recapture, ask a couple of things.
Let's go back.
In terms of,
where are we going back to?
well, first of all, I had a question. You're talking about having a stomach for evictions and all that kind of stuff, and getting a management company. And I wanted to ask you, what about the impact of COVID-19? Because what I'm seeing here is that they're saying, hey, evictions were put on hold because of COVID-19.
Yep.
How is that affecting? How are you seeing that affect landlords in terms of what they're doing in their business practice?
Well, it depends on if your tenant lost their job. It depends on the position of your tenant. Like in our marketplace, it's not the same because we're government. Government is our industry. So a lot of people are still functioning because government is the industry in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Now, if you go to other parts of the country where, like I have some friends in Southern Florida, and they say that in a lot of places they're hurting because hospitality is their industry. The cruise ships aren't going anywhere. The hotels aren't full. And therefore, the people who work in hospitality industry, they're not making money. So their landlords consequently won't be getting paid if their unemployment is not taking care of that. And so there's a freeze on, there's a moratorium on evictions. You can't evict it. Only thing the landlord can really do in that case is apply for forbearance through their mortgage company, and hopefully that will work for them. Because just because the tenants can't pay their rent doesn't mean the mortgage is not due.
Yeah, right.
And then the rent's still due too. Let's be clear about that. It's just that they can't pay the rent, which causes a different challenge. And so that's why I say you have to have a stomach for being a landlord, because no matter what happens, the moratorium on eviction doesn't stop the mortgage from being due.
Right. So I think that's great, and it kind of all leads into what you were saying, and I thought it was a great formula that you gave us about having 3 months of rent, right? So for vacancy, and then depending on the size of the property and et cetera, $2,500 in maintenance as a safety net. So having that set aside, you used the example if it's 3 months of $1,000, so there's 3,000 plus 2,500. My question for you is, how does the security deposit falls in that? What are the responsibilities in relationship to the security deposit from a landlord standpoint?
The security deposit has nothing to do with that. The security deposit is in place just in case when they move out, there is an issue with a lack of payment or the condition of the property. The security deposit is not to pay a shortage of rent while they are occupying the property. Two different concepts. In fact, the security deposit in Maryland and in a lot of states, you have to put the security deposit in an interest-bearing account, and it draws interest so that when they move out of the property, if they're entitled to the entire security deposit back, they get that entire security deposit plus interest.
Wow. I haven't lived in one of those states and rented before.
Right.
That's great. I mean, that's awesome for the tenant because it gives them some protection there. And as we're working down the list, you mentioned real estate group. And right. So, Emery, I have said this many times, and even we had this conversation when Amy Griffin was on. I even suggest not only that they have, it's like a buy-sell agreement with any type of partnership, right? Okay. Outlining the parameters of the partnership and what happens if one of the partners pass or something happens and they can't be involved anymore, because now you're now in business with whoever their child or their spouse or their surviving relatives. And so I've even suggested to some people who have a group or usually it's a couple people go together and we're going to buy some rental houses.
Right.
Have a buy-sell agreement in place so that there's an exit plan, whether that exit plan happens to be because of choice or because of disaster.
Right.
And even sometimes it makes sense to fund it with life insurance, so that if one person dies, then there is a death benefit that buys out that partner's family. So now that you're not in business with someone that you didn't intend to be.
Absolutely, and to be, I've done that in business. It's a key man policy. You can call it. Sometimes it's called the key man policy, buy sell agreement. However you want to secure that investment. When people have partners, I always recommend that they have some legal instrument in place to understand how to dissolve the partnership in an amicable way, while the person who made the agreement is still breathing.
Right. Still capable. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So then number 3 was flipping. And this is it's interesting to me because with with shows like HGTV, Flip This House,
Right.
and really Robert Kiyosaki had talked about it in his book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And when all that came out, everybody wanted to flip houses. Everybody wanted to get in the market of flipping houses.
Yeah.
And some of them should have just stayed out of it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything ain't for everybody.
Everything's not for everybody, right?
Right.
So if you don't have, and I think you made a good point, is that you can't be emotionally tied to the property.
Right.
And I remember I had one guy I knew, man, and he would just be moving properties, and he'd actually sometimes even live in the properties himself. And he'd be in a house and he'd sell that house in a heartbeat. And next thing you know, he was moving to another house, because he didn't have any emotional ties to the property. And I think that was one point that you made that I thought was excellent.
Absolutely. Yes. And so in that space of flipping, the other thing with flipping is that, you have to be a professional. Know what you know what you don't know, and a true professional knows the difference between the two. And you absolutely have to know the difference between the two, because we find ourselves in a compromising situation in that flipping space where you just should not be doing things. And ultimately, it's going to cost you money. Every mistake in flipping pretty much costs you money. And some people say, well, it worked out for me. Even a blind squirrel can find a nut. Okay. And so in that space of flipping, you absolutely have to stay in your lane and let the professional be the professional and give you the proper advice to guide you in the best direction.
All right, so that's awesome, man. So I want to hit a couple of questions that we have. Adrian, she asked about the forgiveness, the forbearance period on eviction. And so once it's over, she's like, can you put them out? Can you put them out once it's over?
Well, technically you can, because they're still behind on the rent, and that's why they put the forbearance. That's why they put the moratorium on evictions. Now, there's another thing, like, and what I've done with my tenants, I got a commercial tenant, and my commercial tenants are Black. They run a Black business. I believe, this is just me, I believe this is all business, and we have a certain obligation to other Black businesses. And so what I agreed to add her rent onto the back of her lease. And so what happens is it's going to be 2.5, it's going to be 3 months where she's not going to be able to pay the full amount of rent. Okay, so we can add that onto the back, because the mortgage company didn't tell me I don't have to make my payments. I can't give you something I don't have. And so I'm being a little transparent here, and I probably shouldn't be saying this. However, I'm going to say this. I understand that it is another Black company. And that's one of the big things what they're talking about, is that there are a lot of Black companies that just aren't going to make it through this pandemic. So I made a barter with this company. I made a barter with this group. And the reason why I made a barter with this group, because I already understood you're already having issues because you can't open for 3 months because of pandemic. You're going to pay me part of the rent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to barter something with you. And if you can come to terms with this barter, this is a way that you can resolve your unpaid rent. And that's from one black company to another black company, because I already understand the challenge. And so I'm speaking out of a little different place here.
Right.
And the reason being is that we got to support each other to a different level. And I know that it's not going to kill me to not get that rent. However, I know it's going to kill them if they have to come up with that money. Does that make sense?
And I love what you're doing, and I respect that, because we have seen over and over again where black businesses are not getting they're not getting the PPP money, they're not getting the disaster relief loans, because of some of it has to do with our relationship with banks. Some of it has to do with we just haven't had our stuff together, right?
Right.
And then a lot of our businesses, prominent businesses, your barbershops and some cash flow businesses don't have the proper records to go and take advantage of a lot of the things that the government has put out there. And so I think that's excellent. I want to go back and I want to catch Lance's question, because one of the things I mentioned to you was the real estate investment trust.
Okay.
What type of return do you expect with a real estate investment trust?
It varies. Every fund is different. But what I can tell you is a lot of them are paying upwards of 10%. They're getting close to 10% in a lot of cases. Because again, that's why a lot of pension funds go to REITs. Because I'm gonna give you the perfect investment for a REIT, and they absolutely love these public storage buildings, storage facilities. Like you go to public storage, whatever, cube storage.
And all those, yeah.
They love those, because the reason why they love those is because they're cash flow businesses. All you do, you have 4 employees running a storage place with 500 units in it. Think about that. You got 4 employees running 500 units for at bare minimum. I don't even know. You probably can't get into one now for about less than about $40-50 a month. And just think, it's got 500 units.
You find one for 40 or 50 bucks.
I don't know. I got out of that business because I understood that the stuff that you stored in, the half of it, when you cleaned it out, you threw it away.
Right.
But they stay full, and it's a cash flow business. So just look at you just have to take a look at how much money those types of facilities make. And so if they give you a 10% on your money, they can do that.
Yeah, that's pretty. And my thing is, if the pension funds and those are investing in those type of things, what about us as individuals? Does it make sense for us to invest in those type of things?
Remember, it is a publicly traded, so you can buy into some REITs. It's usually, a lot of times it's tied up in some kind of a mutual fund, and that's one of their more stable investments. A REIT is a more stable investment. There's opportunity there, and part of that fund is investing in a REIT.
And I'll tell you something else. And just having been in insurance and financial services for 23 years, I can tell you, insurance companies, they buy all kinds of commercial mortgages and those type of things because it's safe investment. It's a great return on their money,
right?
And it's not at risk. And so regulators, kind of force them to do that because they can't have too much of they got to have enough in reserves and all those type of things. So even buying commercial paper, commercial mortgages and that type of thing is something that's big too. So
yeah, but and you said something even into that space. So we go talking about commercial investment in real estate. It's a great place to go. It absolutely is. I love it. It's one of those things. But I tell people all the time: buy where you live,
Mm.
and buy where you live. And if you have a business, you're going to pay your landlord regardless. So why don't you just buy the building?
Right.
Buy the building and make yourself the landlord. But a lot of times we just don't have the resources to make that happen because commercial transactions are, quite frankly, a lot more difficult than a residential transaction. But you said something, just to go off track a little bit, you said something about the PPP money and the EDL money, economic
Disaster relief and all that.
yeah, and you talked about us not being able to get that. And that I'm hoping that, and I'm not saying this in any kind of way, but I'm hoping that this time right here teaches us a lesson, right? Because a lot of us, the reality is that a lot of us don't have our paperwork together. That's why we couldn't get these, because the paperwork that they asked for it's an intensive amount of paperwork. Let me make that clear. And it's clear that the haves and the have-not, this is a clear indication of the haves and the have-nots. They put that paperwork in place, one, because it verifies that you are who you are. Number two, to be honest with you, the have-nots don't have the paperwork, so they don't have to worry about dealing with the have-nots. The only people they're going to deal with is the haves.
Right.
And so the other end of that is that sometimes we don't have our paperwork together because we're working too hard to skirt the system, either to not pay taxes or pay minimum taxes. But then when this situation happens, and I'm not speaking downward, let me make this clear.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying.
And so now when this situation arises, you want the government's help, but the truth is you haven't paid your taxes. So you're working to try to get money that you never paid in to get. So that makes it a little more difficult. So we just got to just make sure we just run our stuff in order and not skirt the system, because there are all kinds of opportunities that the system may have in place for you. And so it's unfortunate. And I'm going to tell you like this, and I know it for a fact, the two-tier financial system that we live under, the have and the have-not system, does not benefit most of us most of the time, because I'm just being transparent. The banker that we deal with, he called on the phone and said, hey, I'm calling you because you got to get your loan paperwork in and all your COVID money paperwork in, and we want to get this done by next week. So get us your paperwork next week. And they gave me a laundry list of paperwork. Get it in by next week and we'll get it submitted for you next week. I didn't call them, they called me. But my point being, they knew that we had our paperwork together.
Right, because of how you're doing business. And so that's really good. Now you mentioned something, you mentioned this word opportunity. We've been talking about COVID-19, we've been talking about, and I know even with mortgages, to your point about paperwork, having your paperwork due and all that type of stuff. So here's the thing. I want to ask this, and Adrian put this up. COVID-19, and there's going to be some people there's going to be some casualties, right?
Yes.
Casualties of war, right?
Yes.
So some of those are going to be businesses, some of those are going to be homeowners, some of those are going to be landlords. What do you think? Give me an idea of where you think the overall real estate, and I know each market's different, right? Each market's different. So give me your thought of where you think the overall market's going to go. Are we going to see more foreclosures come on the market? What do you think is going to happen? I think Adrian said,
I'm not telling you no lies. You know, I'm not telling you no lies. We don't even, honestly, we can't even measure the fallout. So here's the deal right now. If it was only these 3 months that we were talking about, that we've been going through right now, March, April, May, June, we could give an answer. But guess what? There's a resurgence of cases right now. So these folks closing up again in a lot of markets, that changes the whole game. It just does. And so the biggest thing of what's going to keep the foreclosures away or keep businesses from closing is how prideful are they? if they are too prideful to ask for assistance, a lot of businesses are gonna close. If you put your pride in your back pocket and ask for assistance, right, and you have the wherewithal to get it done, you'll remain open.
True.
However, it's difficult to even assess that, because even though you get an assistance, your doors are still closed. So now that clientele that you had before, just remember, when you're in business, we are creatures of habit. And since we're creatures of habit, people haven't been doing their habits for the past 4 months. So the places where they were going 4 months ago, they're not going back to those same places because the habit has been broken.
Right.
We can't even account for that part.
Right.
We can't even account for that part of the broken habit, because I can tell you right now, even as being a business owner, I'm not dealing with the same vendors that I was dealing with before, some of the people, because now I understand that I don't even require their services. Their services were a luxury. So now I've been living 4 months without the luxury. Do I really have to have the luxury anymore?
Well, and that's the whole thing too, is a lot of these businesses have employees that are working from home, and they're saying, listen, this worked out all right. I don't need this brick and mortar when I can just have people working from home. And so you're right, it's not going to be the same marketplace that it was. And I think where Adrian's coming from is that also with that, it's going to come houses on the market that there may be more foreclosures out there that people can take advantage of. I don't know if it's going to be like 2008, that type of fallout, but certainly there's probably going to be some opportunity out there.
And that's why I said if they're willing to ask for help. If COVID has caused, if pandemic has caused you to be behind on your mortgage and you ask for a forbearance, they're giving forbearance. They'll add those payments on the end of your mortgage. The last thing that they want is that house back. So if you're willing to reach out and say, I would like to go into forbearance, and they add those payments on the end of your mortgage, then you get to keep your house. If you say, I don't want no forbearance, I don't want to deal with this, I missed the payments, I'm not making the payments, I don't care, then you go into foreclosure. Yeah. So it depends on where that owner of that property is. And the same thing for commercial properties.
Absolutely. All right. Awesome. So I do want to give this shout out, man. I got to give my man a shout out right here. Sean Langston. He's if you ever when you come back to Charlotte, you got to meet Sean. He is an awesome local real estate guy. He's my dude. He's just been everything you've been saying. He's got real talk. He's telling the truth. And so Sean, want to give out a shout out to him. Anything else, man, that you can think of tonight that you want to really share with us in terms of in this area that we're talking about?
Well, in this area, well, let me say this. I will say this. Since we're talking real estate, we shift gears for this forbearance concept. If you don't have to go into forbearance on your primary residence, don't do it. Don't do it. I've talked to Freddie Mac. I've talked to several lending partners, and if you don't have to go into forbearance, don't do it. If you have to go into forbearance, do it. Because here's what they're saying. We're not asking any questions about going into forbearance. However, we are denoting on your credit profile and on our payment history that you have gone into forbearance. So let's just say if you go into forbearance, interest rates are extremely favorable right now. 2 months from now, you decide that you want to refinance. They're looking at your profile and say, hey, you filed for a forbearance 2 months ago. We can't help you with your refinance. Or in some cases, we can't help you with a new purchase because you filed for forbearance previously, which indicated that you couldn't pay the mortgage. So what leads us to believe that you can now pay the mortgage? And now you answer the question, well, I really didn't have to file for a forbearance. I did it because I was afraid. Now they look at you and say, oh, you were afraid. That may mean that you just wanted to take advantage of the system. And again, there we go, locked out of the system again.
Wow. Wow. And sometimes, man, we have to be honest. We have to be honest that that we have made mistakes. We've done some actions.
Right.
It ain't always the man that's locking us out. Sometimes we're doing some things to lock ourselves out. Right?
Absolutely. We are skirting the system. And guess what? The system rewards people who play by the rules. And it just does. And the system will shun people who don't play by the rules. Now, when you got enough money and you can make the rules for yourself, that's a different conversation, because that's the other financial system. Remember, it's two financial systems. There's a financial system for the have and a financial system for the have-nots.
Absolutely. 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 And so, hey, Brad, we got some people that are asking again for your contact information. So if you could just give us that contact information so Chris can post it, and we may even have some of it from last week, but we want to just share that if you're willing to share that again.
No problem.
All right.
So my email is Emerick, EMERICK PEACE @gmail.com. And then my cell number, which I don't mind, 240-882-0198. Now, I am giving you that Gmail because that is where I take all kinds of emails, no matter what it is. I can distinguish it from regular business, and only certain people get that Gmail address because that's not a branded email, just so we're clear. And so if you go there, you're definitely going to get a reply. You can shoot me a phone. You can call me. You can shoot me a text. I'm just an open book, and I'm here to share. And at the end of the day is how many people can I help climb up the ladder as I am still climbing up the ladder. Let's make this clear. I am not to the top of the ladder. I'm just ahead of a lot of people, and I don't mind reaching my hand back to pull some other people up on the ladder, because until all of us get there, none of us are there.
All right, man. Listen, this is interesting because Lance just asked, would you recommend buying real estate that is out of state if the deal is good enough?
Okay. Hell yeah. Actually, I am looking at real estate outside of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area right now. The reason being is the price point is just too high. Let's be real. In this marketplace, even with my knowledge of deals, right? I'm still at $250,000 easy, right? I can go some other places in the country, and I have some friends that are doing it. They're finding $30,000 and $40,000 deals. Now, do the math on that? There's cash flowing $500 a month. So, do I come here and spend $250 and cash flow $500, or do I go there and buy 4 properties and cash flow $500 each?
It's simple math, right? And
So,
then
yes,
if you're not trying to manage these properties yourself, again, I think that's the key. Because how can you manage a property that's 500 miles away?
It's called hire a qualified professional to do the best work for you, since you are not available to do it.
Wow.
Now, since we're talking about investment properties, I just want everybody to know, and I'm looking at you right in his face, do not be a slumlord. It does not pay you. You get back what you put out. If you're going to be a slumlord, you're going to get slummy tenants.
Location.
Not just location, condition of property. You can go to a rough neighborhood. just have the best looking property in the rough neighborhood, and you will attract the best tenants in the rough neighborhood. Because everybody in the rough neighborhood is not bad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got some great people who just have challenged financial situations, and they would love to live in a really nice property and treat your property very well for 10 years. That's a hell of a tenant, a 10-year tenant. Now, if you're a slumlord, you got slummy tenants who are gonna be in your property 3 years, and you're gonna have to 2 or 3 years, and you have to rebuild the property when they move out. It doesn't pay you.
Now, I have a couple more quick questions.
Okay.
One is, this is from a client that asked about buying land. So the land is not developed, get a good price on some land in another state. What's your thoughts on buying land, undeveloped land, or if you own undeveloped land, that type of thing?
Here's the best way to assess value on land. No matter what county, no matter what area you're in, go take a look at the 10-year development plan. Every county has it. What's their 10-year development plan? You look at the 10-year development plan, and if there's nothing there and it's nothing slated there for 10 years, you're gonna have to do some homework on what's the possibilities, some strong homework on what's the possibilities of making it developable. And so, with the reason why I say that, if let's just say you take a look at the 10-year plan, and in 9 years they're planning to build a highway, you only build highways when you expect a major population boom. You get it? And now your next conversation is that piece of land anywhere where they're building interconnecting roads to that highway, which means exits. And anytime you have property that's close to an exit, that increases the value of the property, because it increases the probability of people being able to come to your property for whatever reason, whether it be commercial development or residential development.
Now, so Emmett, how do you find the 10-year development plan? How do you get your hands on that plan?
There's a parks and planning, there's a zoning commission. The zoning commission is probably going to be the best place to go. Zoning and parks and planning, or community development sections of the government. It just depends on what municipality you're in. But what I can tell you, planning and zoning will have a 10-year plan.
Now, I want to finish this last. This is the last question. I keep saying that, right? I got one more question.
Right.
This is it. This is the one. You hear so much about buying tax liens and buying, tax liens or deeds. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that's not a bad deal either. You got one or two choices when you buy the tax sale. One or two things happen. Either the owner is going to redeem the taxes, and they have to pay you interest on that money, or they're not going to redeem it, and you're going to take possession of the property. So it's a win-win situation. Now the key is, if you're buying tax lien properties, you just have to make sure that you really want that property. Does that make sense? Because
Right.
If you hold a bunch of tax sale properties and it's not things that you really want, is that the position that you want to be in? And if you're okay with collecting properties just because you bought them at the tax sale, that's cool. Just remember that when you acquire that property, now you're going to have to keep paying the taxes on it too.
Or it's gonna go back to the tax. It's gonna go right back.
Somebody else is gonna get it at the tax lien.
Got it. Yeah, but that's real big that you hear, buying tax liens or and I know in some states they don't do the liens, they do some kind of deeds, there's
right.
different things in different areas. So man, love it. Once again, man, you just brought it. And I know that I appreciate it. I know a lot of I'm just reading some of the comments and Alexa said, it's our first time watching. They was very informative. And so, man, I appreciate you being part of the Real Money Coach, a Real Money Coach advisor. You are our dude, man. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And, you know, all the way from DMV and Maryland. And so we appreciate it. And I'm going to just give you any last parting words.
Absolutely. So let me make this clear, right? And this is what I do. I connect with people. I'm a connector. And so anybody that's on this call, doesn't matter what state, what area, what location you're in, my network is such that if you ever have a real estate need, get in touch with me. I will connect you with a competent professional that will guide you through the process and that will take care of you and your family the way that you deserve to be taken care of. So just because I'm in DMV, just because I'm in Maryland, DC, Virginia area, does not mean that I can't be your trusted advisor wherever you are, because I have human capital resources. Somebody put in here leverage. I have extreme leverage. I have a network of about 7,000 Black professionals that are eagerly waiting to help other folks that look like us grow their life, grow their wealth, and be great business partners.
Well, we appreciate that, man. And that's you know, and it just dawned me as we were talking, hey, Marlon, that we need to have the Real Money Coach Network, where we have a place where, and we're developing that. As we go, we have great people, great guests like yourself, so that we have that group of people where someone emails us at info@therealmoneycoach to set up their one-on-one appointment or their one-on-one financial coaching appointment, that we can direct you to people that can help you. And we like that to be, you know, a couple people deep, you know. And so, you know, Emmerich's one of those people that has come and shared with us. And so we're just praying that it's a blessing to him. And so with that, Emmerich, thank you again. I'm going to bring on my partner, Marlon Smith. He dropped some nuggets again to us tonight. Marlon, dropped some nuggets.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Emmerich.
Really quick, I just want to drop a note. I see Tommy Thompson on the call, on this line. Hey, Tommy, good to see you. I'm still working in the community. That's one of my community guys here in Prince George's County. I'm still working it, Tommy. I'm still working it.
Well, and actually, Tommy's part of our team, man. Tommy's part of our team. He's part of our network. And so, really great guy.
Yes.
As you know, Tommy Thompson is that guy, man, heading up the division of firms from National Association of Black Accountants. And also, of course, you know, he has his business and what he's doing really, really good. We mentioned that you were going to be on tonight. So Tommy said, I got to be there. I got to be there.
Okay.
It's his first time, Emmerich. His first time.
So let me add, I'm going to leave y'all with this. George says this all the time. Be careful of the toes you step on today. They may be connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow. So make sure we take care of each other. Make sure we take care of our folks better than anybody else.
Wow, man. So much has been said. We want to say thank you, Emmerich. You know, I got a feeling we're going to have you back, brother. Okay. And, you know, that's what this is really. Thank you, man. And, you know, here's the thing. I hope that based on the chat, we can tell everyone is just really just excited. So, you know, type in the chat box, what's your takeaway? You know, one thing we talk about always is that it's about action. So what's your takeaway? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to move this forward? So just type that in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you, because again, what you do today will dictate where you'll be tomorrow. And I just want to see what's going to happen. What are you going to do? I mean, are you going to reach out to Emmerich? Are you going to send an email to info@therealmoneycoach? You know, are you going to watch some videos? What are you going to do? So go ahead and just type in the chat box. But also I want to welcome all the first-time visitors. And, you know, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, you know, we are here. And so we want to encourage you to share with your family, your friends. Many people are just finding us. I believe all things happen for a reason. Tony and I were talking about this earlier. I mean, we've had some people that just happened. You know, there's no such thing as luck, right? I mean, it just happened to, you know, pop up on their screen. You know, they're just scrolling through Facebook or whatnot, or YouTube, and they see us. And many of them have reached out to us because they were so blown away to say, you know what, you guys are the real deal, right? The real money coach, where again, we're just sharing information. I love the fact that Emmerich also understands the value of, you know what, let me be a blessing, right? Let me be a blessing to somebody else, because all of us, there is no such thing as self-made. We each have been blessed, you know, from, I mean, even our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents. I mean, we are, because of sacrifices in the past. And that's why we have the blessings we have today. And even in spite of, you know, the murder of George Floyd and whatnot, I believe God has a big plan. And I believe that, you know, it's, you know, just think about COVID-19, everything, you know, the pause, right? There's no sports or stay-at-home order. I mean, this, you know, George Floyd and this, you know, the social justice movement, the rallies and the protests, I don't know if it would have happened if, you know, we were so caught up, as Emmerich said, you know, sometimes, you know, just slowing down, you can be more present, right? And you realize, wow, what did he say? Some of those things that he has luxury, you know, that he pays for, wow, do I really need it, right? You know, 12 weeks without it, do I really need it? You know, I know for me, you know, I'm cooking more at home for my kids. And so, you know, that's what it's all about. And so this is really great. And we also posted last week's video, if you missed that. And you can go to our YouTube channel, all right? You know, I want to encourage everyone to go ahead and subscribe. Go to YouTube and then put in, you know, type in The Real Money Coach. And just go ahead and subscribe, because we're sharing videos and special videos on really on an ongoing basis. So you want to stay connected. And so this is great. You know, I love it that, you know, Lance said, I'm looking forward to sharing this valuable information with my friends and family. Thank you for providing this awesome program, right? And Alexa said, you know, yes, he does. Yeah, God is real, you know, and so so it saves so much money thanks to COVID. Wow, Tracy, that's a good talk, right? So in so many ways, this is a blessing. And really, I mean, I want to just break it down and just show you how when you're in alignment, you know, you think different. Tony and I, you know, when we saw COVID-19 and stay-at-home order, we saw the fear. And, you know, Tony and I, we help families create legacy wealth. And that's why we're inviting you to send an email to us so we can schedule a complimentary, no obligation financial coaching session with us, right? I mean, all of our financial coaches are CFEI, Certified Financial Education Instructors. And so again, you know, that's why, you know, I'm real big on action. You know, yeah, this has been a phenomenal program tonight, but now the question is, what are you going to do to take action? And so with that, yeah, I see people saying, okay, reach out to Emmerich, great information, good. So with that being shared, I don't want to hold you up. You know, this has been really great. You saw Tony's enthusiasm, you saw Emmerich's passion for making a difference. So on behalf of the Real Money Coach, we say thank you. Thank you for being here. And remember, you know, at the beginning of the show, I talked about, you know, going ahead and educating yourself. You know, there's two videos in particular. One is the Retirement Gamble, which is by PBS Frontline. That was a very powerful, real eye opener, as well as 13th. Okay, Netflix documentary, 13th, on the 13th Amendment. You need to watch those two. And then there's another one that's on 60 Minutes called the 401k Fallout. Okay, you can Google that, and I see my colleague, he's put that all three of those YouTube links. Watch those three YouTube videos, because I'm telling you, your eyes will be open. Because again, so many of us are just living and, you know, head down, we're doing our best, but there's so much else going on outside of us. So with that being shared, thank you so much. And remember, as I opened up, 90%, this estimated that up to 90% of wealth is created through real estate investments. Emmerich Peace has given his cell phone number as well as his email. Reach out to the brother, because he is committed. And as he said, he has a network that extends throughout the United States and is international. So go ahead, do not miss this opportunity. I am Marlon Smith, and in partnership with my colleague, Tony Jackson, we say thank you. Thank you for being here. And remember, there's greatness within you. We'll see you next Thursday. Share with your family, share with your friends, because the Real Money Coach is the real deal. Stay blessed.